The Galactic Empire had existed for so long that its rulers no longer believed any frontier species could meaningfully resist them. Worlds had risen. Civilizations had protested, but all had been bent or broken under the weight of imperial order. To them, humanity was just another provincial society climbing out of its cradle, too young to grasp its place, too brash to understand the balance of power. That arrogance made the decision inevitable when the imperial administrators approved the abduction of 70 human children from Earth. It was not announced, not negotiated, not even concealed. A fleet descended during what was framed as a cultural exchange, and when it left, those 70 were gone. The justification was simple in the language of the Empire. They would be re-educated, reshaped, and raised into proper servants of the galactic order. It was framed as an act of enlightenment. To humans, it was unforgivable theft. The families shattered first. Grief ran like a wound through every parent and sibling left behind. Within hours, the loss spread from private horror to public outrage, and then to an unstoppable collective fury. The governments of Earth convened, not to argue or stall, but to vow in unison that the children would not be forgotten. For the first time in history, the factions of humanity stood without division. Old rivalries that had fueled centuries of mistrust fell silent, silenced by something greater. Humanity's oldest instinct rose again: protect the young at any cost, no matter the scale of the enemy. What the Empire could never have predicted was that this one action, this theft of 70 lives, would unify a world into a single weapon. The first response came through diplomacy, because that was a procedure expected of civilized powers. Earth transmitted demands for the safe return of the children. It demanded hearings, evidence, explanations. The Empire answered with disdain. To them, the very notion that a planetary people with no recognized fleets or standing in the galactic order could make demands was absurd. The message that returned was one of mocking patience. The children, it said, were being given a higher purpose, lifted from a barbaric world into something greater. Humanity should be grateful. To any human who read it, it was not only insult but blasphemy. It told them plainly that the Empire had no intention of giving them back. And in that moment, diplomacy ended. Across Earth, leaders who once would have spoken cautiously now spoke only of retaliation. Scientists, engineers, and strategists pulled resources together in ways that had never been imagined possible. What had been small, classified projects hidden in bunkers became national priorities. Weapons that had been theoretical or abandoned as impossible were revived. Military doctrines rewritten overnight. Orbital platforms that were once commercial were repurposed. Even corporations that once fought only for profit poured their resources into the cause. The memory of the 70 became the central rallying cry. Every speech, every broadcast, every declaration ended with the same vow. Not one of the 70 will be forgotten. Skirmishes came first. Quiet missions into the black where human covert operatives struck. These were not open wars. Not yet. But alien raiders who once trafficked in lives discovered their ships infiltrated, their crews slaughtered, their captives freed. Survivors spoke of shadows moving in silence, weapons fashioned from tools, and death arriving without warning. What humanity learned in those early strikes was grim and instructive. Other species had suffered what humans now suffered. Colonies stripped of children, families erased, populations bent into servitude. It was not a rare cruelty. It was policy. That knowledge hardened the vow into something greater than rescue. It was no longer about 70 children alone. It became about every child, every family, every world that had been crushed beneath the weight of an empire's arrogance. From that moment, the whisper began. Operation Alien Extinction. The Empire saw the murmurs as little more than noise. They dismissed the raids, claiming no world of consequence could be touched. The abduction, they insisted, was justified, even beneficial. They had no idea what humanity was building. On Earth, the transformation deepened. Space industries that had once focused on exploration shifted entirely to militarization. Shipyards burned day and night, constructing frames not meant for commerce but for war. Old arsenals were emptied of weapons, and prototypes once considered too brutal for use were greenlit. Artificial intelligence was bound to the task of war planning, fed every scrap of data humanity could gather on the Empire. Cybernetic soldiers volunteered for enhancements once thought experimental, and every one of them went into field with the same creed burned into their minds. 70 stolen, 70 remembered. What made humanity different was not simply the speed of its militarization, but its refusal to follow the rules of galactic war. Where other civilizations had risen and fallen under the Empire's hand, they had all fought within expected limits, building fleets, staging campaigns, fighting battles along predictable lines. Humanity approached war with the logic of a Deathworlder species, one that had survived by adaptation and ruthless creativity. Every weapon was reimagined. Every tool was refashioned into a potential means of destruction. Orbital telescopes were re-engineered into targeting systems. Mining drones became autonomous bombers. Atmospheric harvesters became platforms for chemical dispersal. Even asteroids were targeted, maneuvered into kinetic bombardment trajectories. The message was clear. Nothing humans built will remain neutral in this war. Everything could and would become a weapon. When the first prototypes were revealed, even Earth's leaders trembled. The Silent Fleet, cloaked ships designed not to duel but to disappear into shadow, emerged from shipyards without announcement. Their purpose was not conquest, but eradication of the infrastructure that supported the Empire. Fleets of stealth drones swarmed outwards, each one carrying enough firepower to erase a garrison. Human intelligence units cracked into Imperial networks, dismantling communications, feeding false orders, and erasing data trails. Planets on the Empire's edge began to experience outages, shortages, failures of systems they had trusted for centuries. To the Empire, these were glitches. To humanity, they were the opening shots. The people of Earth were not blind to the cost. They knew extinction wars left scars that lasted generations. Yet every loss was outweighed by the rage that burned over 70 faces. The abduction became legend in mere months, spoken of in schools, broadcast in every form of media, taught as the single greatest unifying event in human history. Children who had never seen war spoke of fighting for the 70. Soldiers painted their names onto armor. Scientists signed their research papers with references to them. Humanity had become something new, something greater than a species divided by nations. It had become a singular civilization built on vengeance and survival. The Empire remained blind. They believed themselves untouchable, so secure in their superiority that they did not even relocate the children. They sat within their fortress worlds and believed the humans would soon submit, as so many others had. But the humans were not like others. The Galactic Empire dismissed the early strikes as statistical anomalies. Small colonies disappearing, convoys failing to arrive, outposts going silent. These had happened before in the long sprawl of their territory. Their analysts declared the incidents irrelevant, the product of inefficiency, piracy, or technical failure. Yet, within the undercurrents of imperial politics, unease stirred. Too many failures occurred in regions newly connected to Earth. Too many erased sites bore the marked precision that no random raider could achieve. Some whispered that humanity had advanced faster than predicted, but those voices were drowned by arrogance. The Empire had always been right in its assessment of lesser species. Why should humans be any different? That arrogance proved fatal. While the Empire scoffed, humanity revealed its hand. The first visible blow came when an entire Imperial fleet sent to discipline a minor colony never returned. For weeks the Empire waited, expecting delayed reports. What finally arrived was a distorted transmission captured from the void. Imperial warships drifting, gutted, their crews silenced, their command nodes burned out by electronic intrusions. On the hulls of the shattered vessels, written in languages both human and alien, were the words for the 70. The Empire could not hide it. Too many systems picked up the wreckage. Too many neutral traders saw it firsthand. The news spread beyond containment, and the galaxy realized that the humans were not pleading anymore. They were hunting. The Empire still underestimated. They ordered another expeditionary force, larger, better armed, confident that overwhelming numbers would crush resistance. But humanity had studied them. Human strategists understood that the Empire relied on doctrine, predictable maneuvers, set responses, formations that had gone unchallenged for centuries. When the Imperial fleet entered contested space, it found itself stalked. Human ships never presented themselves in open battle. Instead, they appeared where sensors should not have detected them, struck without warning, then vanished into the dark. Supply ships vanished into silence. Fuel depots detonated before they could be used. Communications fell into chaos as human cyber warfare injected false orders into command relays. Entire wings of the fleet fought each other, convinced they faced mutiny. By the time the Empire realized the extent of the manipulation, the fleet had dissolved. Another set of wrecks drifted in space, carved apart by unseen hands. Again, the words appeared. For the 70, the galaxy began to take notice. Minor civilizations, long cowed into silence, suddenly whispered of revolt. The image of humanity spread like wildfire. Not conquerors, not rebels, but executioners who struck without mercy and left nothing behind but a warning. Even species that had once scoffed at human primitivism now reconsidered. Deathworlders, they muttered, had awakened. For the Empire, the embarrassment grew unbearable. To admit that a single world had defied them was unthinkable. To admit that they were losing was impossible. And yet every day, another message came, another outpost lost, another convoy silenced. Humanity's methods defied galactic expectation. Where most species measured wars in fleets, humans measured them in creativity. They did not deploy endless armadas. They deployed ingenuity. An asteroid redirected at relativistic speed became a weapon greater than any Imperial missile. A swarm of drones disguised as mining equipment infiltrated a shipyard and dismantled its vessels from the inside. Hacked environmental systems turned garrison stations into death traps, suffocating crews in their sleep. Even captured communication satellites were repurposed, spreading human propaganda into Imperial systems. Images of Earth's children, alongside the words, "We do not forget." The Empire had never faced war waged on every level at once: physical, digital, psychological. Humanity fought it as if extermination were the only acceptable conclusion. At first, Imperial propaganda tried to frame humanity as terrorists, criminals lashing out with no hope of success. But such words fell flat as the evidence mounted. Entire sectors fell silent, not because they had been liberated, but because they had been erased. Human operations left no survivors to testify, no prisoners to parade, only silence and ruin. Other alien powers realized that humanity was not fighting to establish a new empire. They were fighting to erase one. The whispered name of the campaign grew louder, carried across shadowed networks and coded messages. Operation Alien Extinction. Inside the Empire, panic brewed beneath the surface. Regional governors demanded protection. Traders refused to carry cargo along the routes near human space. Recruitment faltered as stories spread of soldiers who never returned, fleets that never sent back word. The Empire, for the first time in centuries, realized it was bleeding faster than it could repair. They attempted to respond with escalation, deploying their largest ships, war platforms that had intimidated whole civilizations into submission. Humanity answered with precision weapons designed specifically to counter them. Massive carriers, proud symbols of imperial might, were reduced to slag by targeted kinetic strikes that bypassed shields. Battle cruisers were infiltrated by human saboteurs. Their reactors detonated from within. The Empire had assumed its greatest weapons would terrify humanity into retreat. Instead, they became trophies, burned husks displayed in intercepted broadcasts that humans seeded across neutral systems. For the 70, the messages repeated, hammering the words into the collective memory of the galaxy. It was not only human technology that terrified the galaxy. It was their psychology. Where most species tempered vengeance with pragmatism, humans fed theirs with relentless purpose. Every victory only sharpened their hunger. They never sued for peace, never offered compromise, never once hinted at negotiation. They did not want treaties. They wanted annihilation. This was a concept so alien to the galactic order that many refused to believe it, clinging to the illusion that humans could be reasoned with. But the pattern made it undeniable. Every strike, every raid, every disappearance pointed to one truth. Humanity would not stop until the Empire ceased to exist. The Empire scrambled to adapt. They restructured fleets, hardened communications, fortified strongholds. Yet for every adaptation, humanity responded faster. Their intelligence networks burrowed deeper. Their infiltration units struck bolder. Their weapons evolved with terrifying speed. Galactic observers began to speak of human adaptability as though it were supernatural. Strategies that had taken empires centuries to develop, humanity mastered in months. Where other civilizations advanced incrementally, humanity leaped forward, driven by desperation and fury. And behind it all lay the unifying wound of the stolen 70. The Empire had taken not just children, but the one thing humans would never forgive. Neutral powers debated whether to intervene, whether to shield themselves from what they now feared might spill outward. Some considered offering mediation, but none dared approach humanity directly. The broadcast made it clear. The time for words had passed. Others wondered if the humans might, after vengeance was complete, turn their weapons on anyone who had watched idly. Yet most were paralyzed by fear. The Empire had underestimated, resisted, denied, and finally bled. By the third year of humanity's war, it was no longer possible to conceal the truth. Entire sectors once loyal to the throne had been reduced to silence, their supply chains severed, their fleets scattered, their colonies left as husks. What remained of the Empire's command structure operated in panic. But even panic could not disguise the terror that spread across its worlds. The name of humanity carried with it not images of diplomats or explorers, but shadow fleets, kinetic fire, and the words for the 70 carved into ruined strongholds. The galaxy now understood that humans would not stop until the Empire was gone, and yet the true reason for their fury had not yet been uncovered beyond rumor. That revelation would come, and when it did, the war ceased to be a matter of strategy. It became execution. A human infiltration team penetrated an Imperial research world hidden behind layers of interdiction fields and military cordons. Unlike the strikes before, this was not to erase, but to extract information. When the data burst returned to Earth, every leader who read it was confronted with proof too horrific to be contained. The 70 children had not been taken to be educated. They had been taken as specimens. Some had been dissected to study human biology, tested against toxins, infections, and pain thresholds. Others had been subjected to indoctrination experiments, their minds broken and rebuilt in the Empire's attempt to create obedient hybrids. The majority were gone, killed in the name of science and arrogance. A handful survived in conditions worse than death. Their identities erased, their bodies altered, their humanity scarred. The Empire had not stolen them to uplift. It had stolen them to consume. The revelation was broadcast in silence. Earth's networks carried the evidence without commentary, because none was needed. Images of the 70 filled every screen, their names listed, their fates described. Humanity did not mourn quietly. It raged. The vow that had unified them hardened into something absolute. There would be no rescue now, no dream of return. The children were gone, and so the Empire would join them. Operation Alien Extinction became not strategy but justice. From that moment, humanity swore that no Empire world would stand. No throne would remain, no monument would be left unshattered. The galaxy trembled as humans turned vengeance into a crusade. The Empire mobilized every remaining fleet, drawing from core worlds, stripping defenses from periphery to shield the center. The throne world itself, a planet layered in centuries of fortifications, became the ultimate bastion. To the rulers, it was unassailable. To humanity, it was a target. Human fleets pressed inward with calculated precision. They did not rush, because predators never rushed. Instead, they bled the Empire further, striking supply lines, intercepting reinforcements, corrupting command signals, isolating every fleet from its support. Each victory spread terror among Imperial subjects, who realized that the Empire could no longer protect them. Entire worlds began to defect, not to humanity, but away from the collapsing throne. Yet humanity ignored them all. Their eyes never strayed from the Empire. Their wrath was focused, cold, and absolute. The Empire attempted psychological warfare, broadcasting pleas, promises, even false claims that the children lived and would be returned. Humanity responded with silence and more destruction. When governors attempted to negotiate secretly, Human intelligence intercepted and leaked their messages, ensuring no faction of the Empire could claim innocence or immunity. The humans wanted them all accountable. They wanted the galaxy to watch as the architects of abduction and cruelty were erased. The message was not subtle. It was not diplomacy. It was extinction. Species who had once cooperated with the Empire pleaded for mercy, declaring their ignorance of the crime. Humanity did not answer. To them, silence was already mercy. Every ally of the Empire would burn. The campaign accelerated. Human fleets appeared where no sensors should have detected them. Planets ringed with defenses fell in hours. Bioengineered plagues tailored to alien physiologies swept through garrisons, neutralizing resistance before strikes began. Electromagnetic pulses crippled cities. Gravity weapons crushed entire military installations into rubble. The galaxy watched in horrified awe as each new human weapon appeared. Each one adapted to bypass whatever defenses the Empire still trusted. None were repeated for long, because humanity never lingered on a single tactic. They evolved with every strike, forcing the Empire to fight shadows and phantoms while their infrastructure collapsed beneath them. The throne world became the final obsession. Imperial rulers, desperate to maintain control, retreated into their fortresses, convinced that sheer mass of fortification would endure. They had ringed the planet with defense platforms, shield grids, and fleets larger than entire sectors. To them, it was invincible. To humanity, it was prey too large to consume at once, but not too large to bleed. Human forces encircled the system, disrupting every attempt to reinforce it, cutting its supply lines, severing its communications. For months, the throne world became a cage, a planet locked within humanity's grip, waiting for the killing strike. The Empire attempted breakout after breakout, but each was annihilated by human traps, mind space, collapsing wormholes, ambushes by cloaked fleets. The humans did not rush the final blow. They savored inevitability. When the moment came, it was not a battle but a demonstration. Humanity did not engage the throne fleet ship by ship. They unleashed weapons the Empire had never imagined. Asteroids accelerated to relativistic speed became lances that tore through planetary shields as if they were mist. Orbital bombardments shattered defenses before fleets could react. Entire sections of the atmosphere burned, firestorms consuming continents. Then came the final weapon, a construct born of Deathworld ingenuity, a resonance cascade unleashed within the planet's mantle, destabilizing from within. The throne world convulsed, its surface tearing apart as magma seas consumed cities and fortresses alike. The Empire's capital, seat of power for centuries, cracked open and died. Humanity did not conquer it. They erased it. The message followed, broadcast across every frequency. For the 70, silence followed the destruction. The Empire, once the unshakable center of the galaxy, was gone. Its fleets scattered without command, its worlds abandoned, its rulers buried beneath their own arrogance. In its place remained only the memory of fire and the terror of humanity's vengeance. Other species watched, stunned by the scale of extinction. Some celebrated the Empire's fall, others wept at the cost, but none failed to understand the lesson. Humanity had not fought for territory, wealth, or empire of its own. They had fought for justice as they defined it, the erasure of those who had stolen their children. They had waged total war, and they had won in